now watching News Channel 5 Plus. From the News Channel 5 Network, this is Inside Politics.
Hello, everyone. I'm News Channel 5's political analyst, Pat Nolan. Welcome to Inside Politics. Tennessee's 2018 elections are headed into the home stretch. Early voting ends next Thursday on November 1st, and Election Day is now about 10 days away on Tuesday, November 6th. With candidates going everywhere across the state looking for last-minute support and votes, we are pleased to have Democratic gubernatorial candidate Karl Dean with us on Inside Politics this week. He's no stranger to our program. He was on the show frequently during the 8 years he served as mayor of Nashville. Mayor, welcome back to the show.
Good to be here. Thank you.
You're certainly no stranger to running political campaigns, but this time you're running statewide. Are you learning geographically how long this state is?
I am. It's a very big state. I've been traveling the state extensively now for about 18 months, and I guess the big change is I spend a huge amount of time in a car. That's the big change from campaigning countywide versus statewide. It's it's 20, 25 hours a week in a car.
As you've traveled across the state, what have you learned about Tennessee and about the people of Tennessee that perhaps you didn't know when you started?
I think I've seen the diversity of the state, not just geographically, but also in terms of the people who live here. I think people are very proud of their state. I think people think that the state has a wonderful future and that we need to focus on the basics to make sure that we get there. And I guess I would say it's just pride in Tennessee, and people know that the state is moving in a positive direction.
You're running for governor basically on a lot of the economic success you had while you were mayor of Nashville, although you had some difficult times to deal with as well. There used to be a political axiom in Tennessee that mayors of major cities in Tennessee couldn't be elected governor because of the jealousy factor, particularly because Nashville was the state capital. Is that still out there, or is that faded?
I think it's faded. I certainly don't feel the jealousy factor. I think people are proud in Nashville all over the state, and I do hear people say a lot that we'd like you to do for the state what you did for Nashville, and I think obviously it wasn't me, it was a whole bunch of people doing good things for Nashville. But people like Nashville, and people want to see the state have economic prosperity and see the state develop in a positive way.
You talked a lot, particularly during the primary, about the forgotten parts of Tennessee. Frankly, your Republican opponent did a lot of that as well in terms of the rural areas. If you're elected governor, what will be the #1 thing you'd want to do to deal with those forgotten areas of the state?
Well, I think we've got to put a lot of emphasis on rural, small-town Tennessee. I mean, the fact is that you have 15 counties in West Tennessee that are losing population, and that's occurring in other parts of the state. And what that means is you're losing your tax base, you're losing your ability to fund schools, you're losing your ability to do public safety, and that all is dependent on us not having the economic activity there we need. A lot of those places haven't recovered from the 80s and 90s and those recessions and the jobs they lost. So I would focus economic development energy there and a lot of educational energy. And I would also work on rural broadband. I think we just have to get it done.
The state's spending some money on that. The governor had that done in the last session of the legislature. Obviously, more needs to be done, but there seems to be a disagreement between you and Mr. Lee about how to do that. You seem to be more government-oriented, wanting to do that. He seems to be a little bit more wanting to do it through private organizations or even nonprofits.
Well, I think you're never going to get there with nonprofits doing it. I think you got to work with utilities, TVA, the private sector, and the public sector to get it done. It reminds me, President Kennedy in the early '60s said, "We're gonna go to the moon. A man's gonna go to the moon this decade. We can do rural broadband in Tennessee and have a date for universal access. But you got to break down barriers. I mean, Chattanooga is dying to get out there and do more in the state. There are companies and organizations and utilities that are being barred from doing things that they need to do. We need to get people together, pick a date for universal access, and if the state has to make an investment, we make the investment. But rural Tennessee will never be where it needs to be without broadband. We'll never have the education, we'll never have the economic development possibilities, the health care, and the public safety that we need. It's just critical we do it, and I think we can do it.
You mentioned health care. You've talked a lot about expanding Medicaid across the state. It's something that seems to poll very well when you ask the public about it, yet the legislature has never been interested in it. If you're governor, you'll be probably ruling with an overwhelmingly dominated Republican legislature. How do you convince them this is an issue they need to act on?
Well, it's two ways. I mean, this is self-serving, but that's politics. I think if you want Medicaid expansion, you vote for me, and you have a governor who campaigned on it for a year and talked about it, gets an electoral mandate to get something done. I think that's persuasive. And then I think you just have to work together. You have to say to the legislature, this isn't about Republican victories or Democratic victories, legislative or governor victories. It's about doing what's right for the people of Tennessee. And fiscally, we can't, every other state's figured this out. We can't be sending tax dollars to D.C. and have them going to every other state but us. I mean, we're paying for Medicaid expansion. We're just not paying for it in Tennessee.
You talk a lot about this issue. We've talked about how well it polls with the public, yet in your polls with Mr. Lee, you're running pretty far behind in a lot of this. Why is it not moving the poll numbers in your direction?
Well, I mean, I think I am moving in the polls. At least that's what I'm hearing, and we'll see. The ultimate poll is on November 6th. But my sense of it is that we're running a very competitive race, and it's not over till it's over.
So this idea that you're down behind double digits, and I see some of the prognosticators like Nate Silver have your opponent having a 97% chance to win.
Mm-hmm.
You think that's wrong? Your internal polls so something different in terms of movement?
I'm just saying everything I've seen and feel on the road tells me that that's not accurate.
Is there a problem for you within your own group of supporters? I hear from people that they want to vote for you, but they don't think you can. They are going to vote for you, but they're not sure you're going to be able to win. And if your own people don't think you're going to win, it's kind of hard to build up that momentum to win.
Well, look, I don't think anybody, certainly not me, underestimated the challenge of a Democrat running for governor in Tennessee. This state is overwhelmingly Republican. President Trump got 64% of the vote. So that's the challenge, and I think we're in a position where we can still win this. I think that our job is to get the message out and get the vote out, and I think we can be successful.
You are getting some outside support from the Democratic National Governors Association. Yep. They usually this late in the campaign, groups pull out of areas where they don't think their person has a chance to win. Now, you're not supposed to coordinate with them by law, but
and I didn't.
Are you surprised that they're still here helping you, given what you see, what has been the poll numbers that are out there, at least publicly?
Look, I think I'm one of the, I haven't studied all the different races around the country, but if you look at gubernatorial races, particularly in the South, I think this is a very compelling race for the Democratic Party. And I think the story we have, and I think the issues in terms of my experience versus my opponents, and where we are in the issues, and I think that what we've done here in Nashville gives me a chance at winning this, and a very real chance. I'm not doing this as it's kind of a suicide mission. I'm doing this to win, and I've been doing it for a long time, and I'm out there every day, and I feel good.
Democratic candidate for governor Karl Dean is our guest on Inside Politics. We continue our conversation after this break.